welcome to another episode of Chester Radio. Before we start, before I forget as well, these shirts, I've actually got you one. These shirts are for sale, Chester Radio. There's literally only 6 left. So Chester Radio over there, it's oversized. It is a medium. It's the smaller size I've got, so that is yours.
Well, we were just speaking about how big I am, so
I'm sure those will fit those biceps of yours. So there we go. My guest, Veronique, you've been on before, but today we're going to focus pretty much solely on business and the business behind personal training, online training, and your approach to it. So welcome and thank you.
Cool. Thank you so much for having me again.
This podcast is sponsored by Nutricon. You can use the code Chester Radio and save 20% off on all online orders. Back to the podcast, Joel. Okay, so personal training, I think it's definitely, there's a lot more people that do it because of social media and it makes it easier. Mm-hmm. And, people are in today's age becoming more conscious of their health. And, every person that does a show then believes that they are now an online coach or overnight. A coach in general. Yeah, an overnight sensation that now thinks they can, they have the authority and the knowledge to give people advice. So starting off, what did you start off with, maybe out of varsity or even out of school?
So I actually didn't get into fitness straight away. I was very sporty in school and everything, and I was big into my athletics. I actually have my colors in athletics, and I didn't carry that on, I think, because I was like, cool, varsity party, you know how it goes. And I went to study graphic design, so I have my degree in graphic design, and then I carried on and I did my honors in brand communications. So I did that at Vega, and I was always very passionate about growing brands and helping people grow their brands and whatever. And then I was very big into gym at that time as well. Like I said, I didn't carry on with athletics, so I was in the gym. I'd go train with my dad, and I was in the gym quite often. And I had somebody approach me and say to me, do you compete? And I was like, what do you mean, what is that? I had no idea what they were talking about. And then I went and I researched it, and I was like, cool, I'm going to try this out. Did my first show without a coach, without a posing coach, with barely even a tan. If you see my first photos, they're really bad. So I did that, and then I decided I wanted to get into it. So I got a coach, and I started competing and doing shows. And then I was approached by Trifocus, and I started studying with them. And then from that, a lot of girls were asking me, how do I do it? Can I help them? And then I decided to grow my brand, and that's where it started.
I think your story is just the same as mine, where it wasn't you did well in a show and you thought, okay, cool, now I can make money off people. It was you did well and you look good and people came to you what should I do? What advice can you give me? And you thought, well, here's an opportunity to, grow something that I'm passionate about and grow a business from that.
Yeah. Yeah, and for me personally, just seeing others grow and reach their best selves, I love that. When I get check-ins from my ladies or I get messages from them and I see how well they're doing, for me, it's more than just the money aspect. For me, it's just seeing how they've become their best selves, and I think that really just motivates me as a coach.
And in terms of, your market, is your market, 'cause obviously it's wellness. It's, it's people trying to be better than what they were the day before. It's people trying to create healthier habits. It's not just people that compete.
Yeah, 100%. So I mainly focus on lifestyle coaching, and I have a very small handful of girls that I prep for shows, simply because I also compete. Obviously, I'm still competing. I'm prepping for a show now. I have 6 other girls prepping for shows, but I won't take on any more than that because I want to be able to give them my time. And then in the same breath, I need to focus on my own prep. So.
And starting off this business was obviously you had a previous job where you're doing, I think I got a quote for a logo from you once before.
Yeah.
If you, I think, can you remember that?
Yes.
Sure.
That's
We
so
didn't go
funny.
through it, but unfortunately, I don't think I could afford it at the time, if I'm dead honest. So, did you obviously start the online training as almost a side hustle, and then you started doing well, and then you moved
Yeah,
over?
so basically after varsity, I was working in agencies. So I worked for two agencies. I was the project manager, and then I was also the designer. And then from there, I actually got together with two of my friends from varsity. We started our own agency. So that in that space is where I started competing, and then like the guys sat me down and they were like, "KV, your heart is not here," because I had just started growing up my brand, and they were like, "We can see that you're passionate about this, and you're no longer like really passionate about this. So if you want to go ahead and like tackle that, do that." So I did do that, but then I was like au pairing on the side, and my dad would even say to me, he'd be like, "You're 25 years old, you have 3 degrees, why are you au pairing?" And I was like, "Dad, don't you understand what I'm trying to do?" Because I was trying to like fuel my brand, so that I could get to the point where I only had to focus on my business. And yeah, so I'd au pair. I even used to like make jewelry and go sit at markets. Like sometimes my boyfriend would even go sit at the markets for me and sell my jewelry. So I had like whatever I could do, I would do just because I had the idea, like I had the picture of the end goal in my mind all the time, So there were a few side hustles.
I think that's what a lot of people think is, you can just be a personal trainer starting out and grow this business without doing something else. And I think that's a lot of mistakes that people make. And I've seen it before in the industry as well, where, people believe they get like 1 or 2, 3 clients a month, whatever. And they say, okay, well, I've got these people. What if I dedicate all my time to it? And then they might quit their job. And then it kind of, okay, well, 5,000 Rand a month, you can't live off that. That's all you get. So you kind of have to grow it up and build it up, and then you get to a stage where you say, okay, well, I'm going to have to quit my day job. I'm going to have to stop that, but I do need to go through a little small phase where maybe I'm getting a little bit less money, but I can grow up the personal training and the online training. But you can't off the bat start it off, because there's no way that you can off the bat get that many clients and then be able to live off it.
I remember my first challenge ever, 6 years ago. I literally had 8 girls in that challenge, and I sponsored them all because I needed the testimonials, I needed the transformations. I think especially as an online coach, that's the most vital thing, because if people go onto your page or go have a look at your business and they can't actually see what they are going to be getting out of it, or see that you've worked with people before and they've achieved this, it's very, very hard to sell it, because everybody is very visual. They want to see what they're going to get, so
how long do you think you were training people until the business was big enough for you to not to have to sell jewelry and not have to au pair and that kind of stuff?
I think it was now you're asking me to do maths.
It's a difficult question, because also you might not consciously think about it. It might just slowly be like, okay, well, I can afford this. It's just a slow progression.
Yeah, I remember when I quit my last side hustle when I was au pairing, and I think that was probably about 2 or 2.5 years in, and I was like, oh my gosh, I just quit my job. Now it's literally, this is all it, this is it. I gotta make it now.
Yeah.
So, but obviously I gave myself enough time to build myself up and be like, okay, I need to spend more time on my brand now, and I actually have the capacity to, so I can say goodbye to that job.
Yeah. And why for you have you mainly, so yours is mainly online, other than your activations and stuff?
Yeah, so mainly online, unless obviously before COVID, I'd do monthly get-togethers and meetups and whatever. And now during COVID, it's just like touch and go. It really depends what level we're in or what's going on. But I do like to run my boot camps every now and then. Like I do like to see the ladies, in person, and then everybody gets to meet one another, and it's really cool. But I have quite a few clients in Durban and Cape Town and some overseas as well. So obviously for those ladies, like I need to do everything online. Like I've had events online where I've sent girls packages, and then they'd get like a goodie box, and then we'd do a whole online boot camp and things like that. So I do try and do that just to include those clients who cannot be here in person. But yeah, mainly everything, especially now with COVID, everything is mainly online.
I think also the benefit of being online is the scalability.
Yeah.
Whereas if you work in a Virgin Active, a Planet Fitness, you can,
Only see
let's say
X
you can
amount,
see 8 people. You can see 8 people a day. That's 8 hours, let's say, of your day on 8 people. Whereas, online, you can have a skeleton of a plan and, customize from that skeleton for everybody.
Yeah.
And, you can see and you help up to 50 people or 60, whatever amount of people a month. But obviously there is still a cap within online.
Yes.
So I know last time we spoke, your sister was helping you with a bit of the marketing and that kind of stuff. Because to get to the client plans as well as to market yourself, obviously it's difficult.
Yeah.
So, what team do you have around you that helps you?
So obviously I still got my sister, and I've actually increased what she does for me. And I've recently started working with somebody else who's doing a lot of like my videography stuff and my workout videos and things like that, because that is a pain in the butt. And I'm sure
it's time consuming.
You have to edit your videos yourself, right? And I think that's just like the biggest thing as well for me. And then I want to get somebody on to help me with admin as well, but I just need to be able to trust the person enough. So
I think it also, I was at the stage with my media company where it was, and also I'm sure you've obviously felt this in your journey. It's, you want and you need someone actually to help you, but you also, it's difficult to trust somebody, but also the moment you do get someone that alleviates a little bit of the workload, helps you be able to do other things that can help it grow even more.
Yes. That's why I was like, I'm not doing my workout videos anymore. I cannot do it, because then I spend too much time on things that, I shouldn't necessarily be spending my time on, instead of like focusing on maybe studying further and, planning different things for my business. Like that's where I want my main focus to be.
And what do you want this business to grow into? Like at what scale, what reach do you have aspirations to achieve?
Yeah, I've always said that I want to be worldwide, and I want to be running challenges, that girls will sign up all over the world. But obviously I need to have the capacity and systems in place to be able to handle that. So I do want to grow that quite large, but then I also have my private clients. So I usually cap my private clients off at 40. Where they get all their personal programs and everything monthly, blah, 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 blah. And then my challenge clients, I think that's maybe sometimes why ladies are a little bit skeptic to sign up for challenges, because they think maybe they're not going to get that like one-on-one. I still make an effort to obviously go through all their check-ins and questions and everything personally, or chat to them when I can. So yeah, it's just...
I think that's the difficulty of working with such a magnitude of people, is that personal connection and being able to, because just speaking to one person takes quite a lot of your mind power and concentration, because that person asks you a question, you have to remember exactly what's in their plan and what they're talking about. Then you've got another person who messages you asking something very similar a minute later, and then you think and you don't want to confuse them, because you don't want them to think that they're not special, but it's also because you're dealing with a lot of people. So that is difficult, and also having those systems in place to make sure that everyone does feel special and does feel valued.
It's important. It separates, your clients from feeling like just a number to actually important in your life.
And I think with personal training, it's also difficult because you also need to build, because like with a lawyer, let's say you email your lawyer on a Sunday night, SMS your lawyer on a Sunday night. 9 times out of 10, they're probably not going to reply. But with a personal trainer, if you don't reply, sometimes some clients be like, okay, well, they don't care about me, or they don't value me as a client as much.
Yeah, I have 2 phones for that reason. I was actually listening to, I can't remember what I was listening to this morning, but it said, if you have 2 phones, then you're definitely a drug dealer. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have 2 phones. I'm not there.
Also, I've seen one where if you've got 2 phones, you're definitely cheating on your partner or something.
Oh my word. But the reason I have 2 phones is because I would just get so anxious if, like, say, for instance, it was 8 o'clock in the evening and I was texting my mom, and then I had, like, all these questions coming through, and then I'd be like, oh, I should reply. And I'm like, one of the things I've really tried to do in my business is just create those boundaries so that I can be a better coach, because if I'm going to be on my phone until all hours of the night responding, I'm not going to have enough rest, I'm not going to have enough me time so that I can give my all again tomorrow. So the reason I have 2 phones is because my business hours are from a certain time to a certain time, and then I put that phone away, and then my, like, private phone comes out, just so that I can, like, keep that balance and also just, like I said, be better, so
What are those hours that you...
So
and I assume you obviously tell the clients before.
Yeah, so I also have an away message.
I got that when I try to schedule this podcast.
Yes. So my online support hours are 11 to 4:30. Just because in the morning I'm usually, like, I have my morning routine and I'm getting ready for the day, and then in that time I'll usually get a lot of my work done, and then I'll allow myself time to respond to people between 11 and 4:30.
And like weekends,
And then weekends, that phone goes off. So Fridays, I also don't have that phone. So my ladies know that from a Monday to a Thursday, I'm available to answer questions and chat and whatever. And then from a Friday to a Sunday, I give myself off, because on Fridays I want to spend time growing my business. So I want to spend time focusing on, like, what needs attention in my business without having, because if you have a lot of messages on your phone as well, then you can't really focus because you're trying to get those cleared up. And so that's basically how I plan it.
And with your boyfriend? Yes, still boyfriend.
Still boyfriend, if you're watching this.
I think you might have made the same joke last time. And it's been a year. Come on.
Come on, Don.
So with him, how do you... Obviously, he knows it's a work phone, but I've also... With Sasha, sometimes she's like, you're always on your phone. but I'm like, just come look what I'm doing. You'll see that I'm working. Like, I'm not just chilling on my phone on Instagram. Like, I'm actually working.
Yes.
How do you, because it's difficult sometimes to have that balance, and maybe not even the balance, but I mean, sometimes on the couch, I'll get a message from a client. I'll be like, oh no, I actually have to reply to this.
Yeah.
And then we're watching TV and she'll be like, we're watching a movie, bro, come on. Like, no, but I have to reply to this. Like, it's quite urgent. The person needs like, how do you get that balance with a partner?
Yeah, so, like, I think initially in the beginning, Don used to say to me, like, he used to watch me always on my phone. And obviously, like, with online support, you're constantly speaking and responding and whatever. So now it's just, like, we have our time where I won't, like, have my phone at all. Like, we'll have time where we go out for a meal, not now because it's prep, or go out for a refeed, or just do something, just the 2 of us, and then, like, literally nothing can interfere with that time. And yeah,
I think it's also, you need to establish those ground rules if you're in a business like this where you don't actually have like a boss. You are the boss, so it's up to you to reply to those messages or not. And also finding that balance of, like, if I had to respond to a client on a Saturday evening, if I don't reply to them the next time, it's my fault that I look bad to them because I replied to them the first time.
Yes.
I actually shouldn't have replied to them on the first time. I should have had an away message or had something that shows them that, I'm on a weekend just as much as you're away from work. Like, just because I'm not, a conventional job doesn't mean I don't get a weekend either.
100%. Yeah, I agree with that. That's why I, like, try and hold myself back from responding after hours or on weekends and stuff. And I'm like, just don't do it, B.
And it's difficult because sometimes I'll be like, no, if I respond, my business is going to grow. My business is going to be better.
Yeah,
But it's
he'll-
that fine balance where, you're also ruining your special time with your partner
Yeah.
because you're trying to grow your business. You need to
Yeah.
actually have that balance.
Yeah, and you can still grow your business just as much if you work within like your hours and your boundaries and give it your all in that time, then that means your rest time is your rest time.
Have you had a time where, like, obviously you said where, those 8 girls that you sponsored to get them and, build up that client portfolio. Have you had times where, you were desperate for clients and like what interesting things did you do to try to get new clients?
Yes, definitely. Like I'd run specials, or I'd say to them, okay, you can have this plan that's X amount for this amount if you can't afford it. Because a lot of the time, I think especially when I started growing up my business, like everybody that was investing, I think was in a similar space. So what, I was around 24, 25, and everybody was trying to make it. So a lot of the time people would say to me, I can't afford it, but I really want to do it. So then I would, kind of cut corners or whatever, but I refrain from doing that anymore.
Yeah, I think it's also you kind of need to set a standard for yourself and be like, I am worth X amount.
Yes.
And if you're not willing to pay, unfortunately, that's unfortunate for you, but there is someone else that is going to.
Yes, yeah, 100%.
And family and friends, how's that approach? Because I'm pretty sure actually anyone in business, in any business,
Yeah.
their family or their friends expect some sort of discount. How do you approach
Yeah,
that?
so initially in the beginning, I think like that was like expected of me quite a lot. But I'm lucky enough. I think it's also because, just setting all my boundaries and like focusing on like acknowledging my worth as well has made the difference, because like now I'm busy running a challenge at the moment, and 3 of my really, really good friends, they had told me they wanted to do it. So I was like, okay, cool. I'll make like a plan for you or whatever. We can do like a special cost. And then they all just purchased it in full on my website. Like they didn't even use discount codes or anything, just in full. So I think from that aspect, I've grown a lot because, I've kind of acknowledged myself.
And with personal training, that's difficult because if you're, let's say you're a lawyer, you're an accountant, I can't go to you be like, bro, please do all my taxes and do it for free. But people will come to you be like, don't you just want to help me out with the diet and training plan?
Yes, 100%.
And
And most of the time, those people don't even follow that diet or training plan.
That's also the thing. Anyone that gets something for free doesn't actually value it.
Yeah.
And, with these struggles in terms of COVID and, we did speak just after the lockdown restrictions that eased up. What did you try to do? Obviously your online workouts and that kind of stuff, but most of that's free if people can watch it on Instagram or whatever. How did you try, and combat the tough times to try and make the same amount of money or if not more?
So lockdown was actually really, really good for me. The beginning of lockdown, like my business boomed. And I think it's because a lot of people had a lot more time because they were working from home. So I had a lot of people signing up that would say to me, I've always wanted to sign up, I've never had the time, and now I can. So all my challenges, and you remember when we were locked down for, I think it was 5 or 6 weeks?
Yeah, that initial, I think it was in April. It was the full month and then they extended it.
So I had live workouts happening every single morning at like 8 o'clock, and everyone would log on and do the live workouts together. So I think that really helped as well. And also because there were a lot of newbies, like it's easier to do the workout guided by somebody than just follow a plan.
Yeah. And that's also you giving that live workout and people getting a little sample of it.
Yeah.
And they say, this booty workout was really cool. Let me, message her and actually pay for a full plan, a full diet, and I can see the benefits from that.
Yeah. So I actually had live workouts on a private Facebook group. And then I think once a week or so, we'd do it live on Instagram.
Okay. So most of them were actually for paying.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you obviously told people that, I'm now offering my clients, we have a private Facebook group with these videos.
Yeah. So I put that all on Instagram, like if they signed up, this is what it would include, this is what they would get, and yeah.
And with social media, how have you, you know, social media has changed a lot over time. And how have you and your business changed? Because like, is it just, obviously with the lockdown and the live workouts, your business kind of changed to doing more live workouts.
Yeah.
Whereas, because you couldn't do those boot camps.
Yeah.
How else has your business maybe changed?
My business has changed a lot. And I think a lot of the time I'm like super hard on myself because I feel like it's not changing enough. But I was actually reflecting on it yesterday. And since lockdown, so I used to do basically almost everything on WhatsApp. And it was very hectic. Like I used to do all my client check-ins, like everything I would communicate through WhatsApp. And now, like, I've redone my website. I've got everything working a lot easier and simpler on my website. My client check-ins go through to them via email. They get a check-in form on Google where they'll fill it out, and then I go through their check-in forms. And if they've dropped a question or a concern, because they'll have space to fill me in on everything that's happened that week. So they get an option to check in monthly, bi-weekly, or weekly, depending on what they prefer. Then I will...
Would they have to pay slightly more, obviously, for the more frequent they're able to contact you or not?
So this is like my personal clients, and then with my challenge clients, they get bi-weekly check-ins. So then the challenge fees and the personal fees are completely different. So then but the same as like with my challenge clients, if they have to drop in a concern or a question or whatever, I'll pick up my phone and then I'll send them a message. But then it's also easier because I've got all their stats in a form and everything's all together instead of it all jumbled in messages. So I think like my systems have gotten a lot better,
like streamlined,
more professional.
Yeah. And if you had to, how long you've been doing this in totality now?
Like
from the start?
About 6 years.
If you had to go back and, you went to yourself 6 years ago, like what would you have changed from how you started out? Would you have changed anything? Because obviously everything happens for a reason. You are where you are today because of things you've experienced, or would you, obviously everybody would try to give themselves better advice.
Yeah, I think I would have maybe not relied so much on like specific people in the industry, because I think when I first started out, I think I always thought that like I needed to be someone's shadow, or I needed to get advice from someone. And now I've kind of realized like everything I've done and everything I've wanted to do and everything I've done research and studied on myself has actually led me to where I am now. So yeah, I think I was too like not focused on myself.
You thought other people had all the answers when actually, like, if you just got down to it, you could have done it anyway.
I thought in order to make it in the industry, I needed to be clicking with certain people. And I realize now that's...
I think in the industry, it's actually probably quite the opposite now.
Yeah.
It's the more you are associated, especially, I mean, the fitness industry is very toxic. Every industry, whatever industry you think about, in everything is toxic, and there's backstabbing and stuff. But the fitness industry, because of social media, it's quite closely knit, where everybody talks about each other. Everyone knows everyone's dirty laundry, that kind of stuff. So being sometimes very closely associated with someone could actually be detrimental to your brand, because that person that you associated with might do something wrong, and then people associate you and paint you with the same brush.
Yeah, or it's always like a competition, like everybody's doing the same thing. And I'm just like, seriously, can we not just, be ourselves and push our own brands in the way we want to, instead of, everybody feeling... I think it's also like when someone sees somebody else doing something, they're like, oh my gosh, I need to do that for my business, like otherwise I'm falling behind. So.
Well, looking at your brand and looking how you do things, I would say there's only, and I would definitely say that maybe, or you and maybe two, I think other people do something very similar to you and are doing it the right way. Whereas there's so many female based, obviously your market is female.
Yes.
So what you do with your woman that you work with is the right thing to do. And there's, I would say, two other girls that do the same thing with their clients. And people need to learn from that. How do you, let's say, I wouldn't say your competition, but people that, because if I look at you and let's say Monique, right? I look at you, I look at Monique, maybe you two are the two, like if I think about female trainers, I think of you two, right? In the South African fitness industry. Like, how do you, like, obviously, because you both also do like a boot camp type thing. So how do you, because I know, like, if, let's just, as an example, I see someone else that does a podcast. I see, that's cool. They incorporated a couch studio. Maybe I should incorporate a couch studio, but let me try to do my own spin in it. It's not really me copying it. It's me getting an idea from them and adapting it to fit my brand. How have you done similar things in the industry to not make, because I mean, if Monique does something that's a really great idea that you might be able to adapt, or you do something and then Monique sees you do it and then she thinks, okay, well, I can adapt on this. So how do you do something and see something and then adapt it to your own brand?
Well, I think because I know that the industry is like very big overseas, so I mainly follow a lot of girls in Australia and I follow a lot of girls in America. So when it comes to competition and seeing how other people do things, I think that's my main focus, because I know that's where it is growing and that's where most of the growth is happening. So a lot of the time, like, I will look at the overseas brands, and if they've incorporated something and it's like, now I've forgotten the word. If it like sits well with me, if it's like if it's authentic to me, because like I think that's the biggest thing. Like everything I do within my business, I want it to be authentic. I want it to feel good. I don't want to ever feel like anxious about anything that I'm doing in my business. So if it resonates with me, that's the word I was looking for. If it resonates with me, then I'll put it into like my ideas and my mind maps and stuff, and then kind of work with it from there. But I wouldn't necessarily want to actually take an idea and, copy paste it and then sell it as my brand, because that's not what I believe in.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a lot of people, like, I assume everyone knows Gary Vee. He says he never looks at his competition. He never looks what they are doing. And I don't think, but Gary Vee also changes what he says half the time. So I don't think that's also smart to not look at all what your competition is doing, because you can get amazing ideas from your competition that they might be doing that's working well, but you can make it work better.
Yeah.
So there's certain ideas, like, you might not be in competition with someone, but they're doing something within the same industry and they have an amazing idea. And you say, well, cool, if I adapt it to follow my brand and the way I do things, it can actually be greatly beneficial.
Yeah. I just avoid like looking at any South African competition just purely because of all the drama within the industry here. So like some of the girls I don't even follow purely for that reason. But I will always, look to the other women, and like Rachel Dillon, I'm sure you know her. She's doing amazing things and her brand just grew and grew and grew. So for instance, that's somebody who I would look at.
And in South Africa, like compared to these Australian, American, whatever girls, what do you think maybe keeps South Africans back from? Is it maybe just the money that the other people, that your clients or potential clients just don't have?
I don't know. I think it might also be the people within our country. I feel like maybe fitness, like we're not as fitness and health driven here, and I think the diet culture and the stigma around being fit is like a lot different to overseas. So people kind of feel like very restricted if they're on a lifestyle plan, or even if they're allowed a certain amount of fun calories or whatever the case may be, they still feel very restricted or that they can't do it. So I just feel like maybe our country is a little bit demotivated when it comes to that, just because, like I said, with the diet culture around and the stigma around it, maybe that's slowing us down.
I definitely think also South Africans, also because, if you look at Australia, the amount of people there are in the world, in Australia. Rachel's Australian, right?
Yes, yeah.
So taking her into account and her client, Lauren Simpson, like all their client base, it's a big amount of people. It's a big amount of people with more money. You know, I mean, obviously both of them, I would say probably most of their followers actually are probably like American, but
Yeah.
most of their clients have money and their reach is greater.
Yes.
And I've actually been very surprised when I first started training, and maybe the reach thing isn't a great example because when I first started training and online training, I was doing better when I first started. That's why I started these other businesses, because they started to die out. Obviously, if I focused on it, maybe it could have grew and, you know, continued to slowly die out because I focused on other things. But my reach seemed to be better the less followers I have. So I was doing
Okay.
better because that's also what I want to ask you is, because when I first started training, I got X amount of clients. I was like, yo, this is amazing. Surely next month it's not going to be, because most of my clients were starting out, at least, was students and maybe school kids that were getting money from their parents to buy the plans. And it was
Okay.
usually like once off 8-week, 12-week, 4-week plans. So I was like, okay, well, for this month, X amount of people buy it. It's a once off plan. Next month, or X amount of people going to buy it again. I just never saw longevity in it. And then constantly each month it was just increasing and getting better and getting better. Then obviously to a point it slowly died down. But for you, with your reach, that's also where the client relationship comes in, because let's say you got those non-recurring clients, so there's once-off clients, and they
Yeah.
leave,
Yeah.
and because I mean, let's say 30 girls come to you in a month, and then the next month you need another 30 girls, but you're not getting enough followers on social media, and your reach isn't increasing enough, because let's say you need 1,000 people for 30 of them to be clients. So that's also where you need to have that and focus on that relationship with the girls,
Yes.
because to get 30 new people that you've never seen before, never met before, to buy a plan every single month,
Yeah.
you know, there's not actual longevity in that.
Yeah, 100%. I think that also comes in, like with me, my clients will kind of be month to month. So every 4 weeks, we're changing things, we're changing workout plans and that sort of thing. I think the only once off programs that I sell really are when it comes to my challenges
Yeah.
or like my ebooks online.
Yeah, that's also why I've also had to shape my brand differently, because when I started out, it was all students, university kids that couldn't afford, you know, month to month. They couldn't afford to pay even 1,000 rand a month. They could afford to pay 1,000 rand for 8 weeks, you know, for 2 months or
Yeah.
whatever. So now where I'm at the stage where I had to say, okay, well, I'm turning away those people that just want to plan. They think they can follow the same plan for the whole year. Like, you kind of turn them away, be like, okay, well, unfortunately, I'm increasing my fee for monthly people. If you want to be a client for a month to month basis, this is my fee and we can do that. But if you just
If it's
want
a
a once off
once-off,
plan, like, it's actually not going to work, because
yeah.
there's actually no longevity in
And
that.
there's no accountability as
Yeah.
well.
So for you, how is it? Because I know for myself, sometimes, like, if you're making a diet plan, you're making a training plan, you go into the gym yourself, you're doing a diet yourself. Like, how is it the mental sanity of always thinking about diet, always thinking about training?
I think, like, now that I'm on prep, I'm like, damn, this stuff is crazy. Because, like, people will come up to me and they'll be like, I want abs like that. And I'll say, okay, this is not realistic. Like, you won't catch me looking like this unless I'm prepping for a show. But I think I'm in a really good space with my relationship with food. So after my first coach, and my first like few preps for stage and everything, I really just had to like backtrack and figure out where I wanted to be in terms of food and everything, because I felt really restricted. And I mean, going into the industry and going straight into prep and hardcore preps can really just kind of put you off of the food and also just make you binge after shows and those sorts of things. And so I just didn't want to be in that space, and I found my coach that I'm with now, and he, like, the way he coaches is very similar to, you know, what I believe in and what I do, and that really just helped me better my relationship with food. So for now, with like how I'm prepping now, I mean, I don't even have fruit in my diet, and I love fruit. Like, I'm prepping so hard, but I have the bigger picture in my head. Like, I know why I'm doing it, and I know that after this, I'm not gonna binge, and I'm not gonna go, off like my head eating everything, because I understand that it's not a restriction right now. I'm doing this for a bigger purpose, and then when I go back to eating normally, I eat pretty much similar to the way I prep my clients. So for me, I don't think it's too much of like a big, like, I don't, I, I have sanity in it. I love being in the gym. Now it's getting a little bit hard, yes. And I love my food. So when I'm writing meal plans, like, I'll write them as like delicious as I can, depending on what that girl's goal is, or depending if they're prepping for a show. So for me, I think being involved in it 24/7, thinking about it all the time is amazing. Like, I don't get bored of it at all. But if I'm out on the weekends, like, and I'll meet somebody, they'll be like, "V, so I ate this and I ate that," and I'm just like, "Hey, but I don't want to talk about it now."
Yeah. I think also you're talking about like the association and the connotations and thinking about food negatively or positively. I think that also comes with time, because everybody goes through a stage where they have a negative association, especially after maybe their first few shows,
Yeah.
the first few years in competing,
Yeah.
where the moment you touch nice food, it becomes a complete binge eating period.
Game
And
over.
yeah, and it's bad, and everyone goes through that. And for you, was it just experience and time that kind of just make you more accustomed to, it's fine, I'm gonna have this food next week again, I don't have to go
Yeah.
all out now.
So I think I became hungrier for the goal, and I understood, like, okay, cool, I'm having my cheat meal now. I don't have to stuff my face and binge and whatever, because I'm gonna have another one next week. And in the same breath, I'm still training and like loving my body. I think that was also a big thing. Like, I needed to learn to actually love my body. So like my off-season body and my in-season body, like, I need to love my body the same way. You know what I mean? So I think as I started doing that, then I obviously wanted to look after my body and not binge eat or anything.
And I think that's also the difficult thing is, everybody wants to, obviously it depends on how they want to look, but most people that compete always want to look like how they look on stage. They want to
It
look
ain't
like that
gonna
24/7. And that's the difficult thing with getting your body to look like that. It's when your body doesn't look like that, how you deal with it.
Yeah.
And how you think. And for me personally, the most difficult part that I need to get my head around was, people aren't going to think of me differently. Like,
Yeah.
people aren't going to be like, "Yo, Jesse's not shredded," or "Jesse's not this," or "Jesse's not that." Like, big whoop actually what people think.
Yeah.
Most of the time they're not going to care, and if they do, who cares what they think?
Yeah, 100%.
And that's difficult because of also what social media does, and looking a certain way and portraying yourself on social media. And obviously everyone wants to use the best photos of themselves on social media, and just building that, that mental bridge between, this is how people perceive me, this is how I actually am, and I need to, how I value myself actually is of what's most important.
Yeah. I think after my first few shows, I was like, oh my gosh, I don't have abs. I need to have abs. I'm so stressed I don't have abs. And now I'm kind of like, I love my off-season body. Like, I usually only pick up about 5 kgs off season, and I have my top 2 abs, but I don't look like what I look like for show, and maybe my clothes are a little bit tighter, but I enjoy that. I like that, and I like how I look now as well. And I just had to find that balance to accepting myself in off season, because I love my food as well. So you won't catch me eating how I'm eating now if it's off season, especially because I want to be with my friends, I want to be with my family, I want to go out for breakfast with my boyfriend, and I can't do all those things if I'm going to be fixated on having abs. So,
And that also, on the other side of the spectrum, where it's people that, let's say, because I recently have been helping someone that they always say, okay, because they work on a job, and if you're listening to this, listen properly. They work somewhere where they're never really home. Okay, this person travels a lot, and where they travel to, it's difficult to make smart food decisions to obviously try and improve their body. And where they go doesn't have a gym. I mean, it's impossible to get a gym where they're going. So like that I understand, but you know, you can always just eat less. But the person says to me every time they come back, like, okay, I'm home for 4 weeks. I'm going to be super strict, and then I'm going away for 6 weeks. Then they're not strict for those 4 weeks, and they're back. Then they go away for 6 weeks. Then they say, okay, when I'm back, I'm going to be super strict. Then they get back, they're not strict. And I said to him, and it was tough love. I said, if you are not strict, you do not want it enough. And he's like, yo, but I've got kids, I've got a wife. I'm like, well, to be honest, if you want anything in life, certain things you have to sacrifice.
Yeah.
You have to sacrifice certain things if you want to achieve something. Obviously, don't sacrifice spending time with your friend, your children and your wife, but you don't have to eat the same food as them. You don't.
Yeah.
Like, yes, maybe it's difficult. Of course, it's difficult to eat a certain way when everyone else is eating pizza. It is difficult. But then maybe you need to look at your goal, and you need to see, like, you actually don't want that goal enough. If you are not willing to make the sacrifices, what you are dreaming about, you clearly don't want it enough, actually.
100%. Like, I've had to watch so many people eat so many amazing things during this prep, but I know how badly I want to achieve what I want to achieve on stage. So I'm like, okay, cool. Like, I'll sit there eating my egg whites, and Don's eating like a burger. Then the other day, I heard this noise, and I was like, where is that coming from? I was busy working. And then I heard it again, and he had his hoodie on, and he had like chocolates in his hoodie. And
At least he's hiding it.
that's what my coach said. I said to him, just eat it. Like, I'm so hungry for my goal that, yeah, you're eating chocolate, but whatever. I'm going to get to eat chocolate soon enough.
And I was watching a video the other day. It was the cost of success and the cost of achieving your goal. And any goal that you set, you're going to have to sacrifice amazing things. And I've had it before where it was a Saturday, and I had a lot of work to do. And Sasha went out and had a few drinks and went out and like with her friends. And she's like, come on, you never want to go out. I'm like, no, it's not that I don't want to go out. I've got this goal and I want to achieve something. And I was thinking to myself, I was like, JC, you know what? Why don't you want to go out? Why don't you want to do that? Like, why do you want to work rather? And I had to think of myself, like, don't let the world tell you that you are bad for making a decision that is towards your goal.
Yeah.
Don't allow the world to make you think that you are doing something wrong because you have a goal in mind and you're sacrificing things that they aren't willing to sacrifice.
Yeah, 100%.
And obviously not every single weekend, and I'm not saying never see your friends and never do this and never do that, but if you truly have a goal, you are going to be willing to sacrifice certain things to achieve it.
Yeah, 100%.
So you on stage in 2 weeks, huh?
Yeah, 2 weeks.
Wellness.
Yeah, wellness.
And then essay is 2 weeks after that.
Yeah.
So guys, stay tuned for that. I want to say thank you very much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Cheers, guys. Thank you very much for watching.